right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you for showing up to the live call. That's what really means is having you here and engaged with us. I hope you get a lot out of the call today. We will be offering the replay because we're going to give you so many specific examples and tips that, definitely you're going to want to make sure to take some notes so that you can refer back to them later. I also sent you a worksheet to download so that it's easier to follow along as we go through the call. That should have been sent to you last night in the reminder email for this call. If for some reason you didn't get it, you can check your spam folder, or you can send an email to myself right now at amber@insightfuldevelopment.com, and Shannon, our project manager, is standing by to send that to you. Also, you're going to want to stay till the very, very end of the call because, true to my nature, I am giving away an awesome giveaway that I'm going to be announcing at the very, very end. And I know that you're all going to be clamoring to get your hands on it. So trust me, you will want this free giveaway. I do want to start by just telling you guys a little bit more about me because so many of you are new to NG and myself. So I'm just going to take a quick minute to introduce myself. Back in about 2007, I started our company, NG Enterprises, which stands for No Guts, No Glory. It's a phrase that my mom used to say to me all the time when I was growing up, and it really, really resonated with me. And I thought, what better message to impart to my clients and to the world than that of having no guts and charging forth? Because in order to build a successful business, it definitely takes guts. So what we do is we work with authors and speakers and coaches to help them build their business online. Now, a lot of times it's going to start with somebody needing a website, let's say, but there's so much that goes into building the actual business. So I coach people on what to brand in their business because that tends to be really confusing for people, or how to build their following online, or, what product development sequence should they create so that there's always something new and fresh for their audience, even down to more advanced things like how to have joint venture partnerships and membership websites and affiliate programs. Everything that I teach is based on my own experience. So I have tried it and tested it myself, and I built a very successful company online. So everything that I teach you is something that I do myself. It's not something that I heard from somewhere, sometime, one time, and passed it along to you. You can be sure that this is going to be really good, valuable information. Well, how I started the whole internet game was around 2005 or 6, and I was helping to run this event called the Capital Factor. And the Capital Factor brought in some of the top internet marketing experts in the world at that time. People like Armin Morin and Simon Leung, who helped create Google AdWords, and Eric Graham, who's excellent at conversion rates on websites, to even Brendan Burchard. Most of you know Brendan Burchard by now, and I met him right after he published his first book before he became the superstar that he really is today. So all of these people came to this event, and I became friends with them and learned from their product courses, and it was an unbelievable gift and experience. That's also where I learned how to write copy for the web, which is different than, let's say, writing a book or what you learned in grade school. There really is a specific method to writing copy for the web, and I was able to learn how to do that from the guys who wrote those, the really long sales pages that so many of us would like now. And these are the very people who made millions doing it. So anyway, I developed this passion for writing, and even now I'm such a nerd. I get so excited when I sit down to write a blog post or a social media post so that I can see the results of that writing. And what I do is I sit down and I immediately focus and get in the mind of my target audience. So I tap into my intuition and my experience to really feel what they must be feeling when they first arrive at this page of whatever I'm promoting. Then I have this sequence, which I'm going to take you through today, Casey and I will, that I think about every time that I write anything. It reminds me to show the reader that I really know their pain. It reminds me to handle objections in the copy before they even come up in a reader's mind. And it reminds me to build value in my service. Sometimes it's obvious to us, but it's not obvious to people who don't know us, right, or who are familiar with what we're doing. So we don't want to promote ourselves in like a hypey, tricky kind of way. I mean, that's the temptation because you want to excite the reader, right? And you want to get good results, and you think, well, maybe that's how I have to do it. But I think if you build the hype and you don't deliver, well, there goes your reputation, right? I mean, I really wanted to have a reputation of over-delivering as often as possible. So what I do is I make sure that I'm building excitement genuinely and honestly, and then I deliver as much value as possible so that I can help more people achieve greater levels of success, and then that only gives me more positive results and repeat clients, right? So after years of, having success and learning about writing sales pages and email blasts and developing products or social media, down even to my service pages, I really felt that it was time to get this knowledge of copywriting out into the market. And all I see, even I just saw this morning, I see entrepreneurs out there who are writing run-on sentences, or they're just trying way too hard. Or what's the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that they haven't found their voice, or they're not confident in their own voice. So what happens is they try to mimic what other people are doing online and trying to implement their voice. And then it doesn't even come across the right way at all. So there's a lot of common things that people are doing. And again, there is a certain way to write for the web. So I was out there searching, and this actually leads me to Casey. I was searching for a brilliant, experienced copywriter who held the same beliefs that I do about the laws of copywriting. And a few months ago, Casey and I were at this event, and we crossed paths, and ever since, I mean, I just knew from the get-go that he was our guy. And I really wanted somebody that had that experience, who was really on their A game, because anybody that I hand select to add to the team, I'm just so conscious of the type of person I want to present to our clients. And Casey has been nothing but amazing every step of the whole way. So a couple of months ago, I gave Casey his first client and his first few projects to see how it goes, and the response was like truly overwhelming. I mean, everybody loves Casey, and his work is just spot on, and clients are getting results. And so what happens a lot of times is the client will come in and they will ask Casey to review their website content. And he'll come in and offer really specific, valuable suggestions to improve their writing. But he's also, oh my gosh, he's written brilliant taglines and full ebooks and video scripts and website copy and landing pages and sales pages and newsletters. I mean, you name it. We've had Casey do it with our clients, all with a 100% success rate. So it was about, I think, a month ago, and I said I wanted to open up this to everybody because I kept seeing that this need was, massive out there to learn how to do good copywriting to get results. So we decided to run this teleseminar, and what we're going to do is give you a ton of tips. Now, again, I want to make sure that you're taking notes because it's going to be off the charts valuable. But Casey, if you want to just kick us off by telling people a little bit more about you and your experience with copywriting, and then we'll just dive into the rest of the call. So if you want to take it away.
Well, I got into copywriting in kind of a funny way. I actually spent my 20s running around Hollywood trying to sell screenplays, and I spent some time as a story analyst for Ron Howard and Anson Williams, who were Richie and Potsy on Happy Days. So I had a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. But then didn't have the big Hollywood career that I wanted, so I put together a little portfolio and landed in a healthcare company writing marketing copy. And from there I went to a medical device company 4 or 5 years in Santa Barbara, California. Then I started writing on my own, and since that was 13 years ago. So for the last 13 years I've been doing a lot of copywriting and always trying to learn and new copywriting techniques and stay abreast of things and help people as much as I can.
And gosh, you so do that. I mean, Casey always goes above and beyond. I know I'm sitting here just showering you with recognition, but I genuinely, I feel that way about you. So, what I was talking about earlier is that so many people that I'm seeing online, and I know you and I have talked about this as well, so many people are struggling with finding their own voice. How do I write good sales copy but in my voice? Because you have a unique, powerful voice, and if you try to be somebody else, it's not going to come across the right way. So it's really important to find your own voice And Casey, what tips do you have for the group today on how to find their own voice and use that power towards their copywriting?
Well, the first thing to do is to be very authentic. Like you said, don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing everybody can do is think about, if you started your own business, when you were starting your own business, you were telling your friends about it. You were telling family members. And even today, when you talk to people about your business, you talk to people about it. Think of the voice and the style you use every day when you talk about your business, and use that as a starting point. And the second thing you can do is go to your friends and talk to them. And they'll tell you what your personality is. If you're kind of, you're usually pretty witty, or you have an edge to you, or you're very nurturing. So get some feedback from your friends, and again, stay true to yourself, and don't try to be somebody that you're not. If you're not an edgy bad boy, don't try to be one just because somebody else is. Be yourself, and think about the voice you already use to talk about your business.
That's great advice. And another thing that I do with clients, especially when we're talking about branding, and let's say that you're an author, speaker, coach, well, you really are the brand, right? So what I suggest you to do is make a keyword list that literally describes your personality. So you could say, I'm witty, I'm professional, I'm honest, I'm blah, 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 and come up with a really solid list of 6 to 12 keywords that describe your personality. This becomes your brand personality. And what I invite you to do is when you sit down to write an e-zine or a sales page or a product or anything like that, when you're all done writing it, go back, pull out that branding personality keyword list, and evaluate if your content is in alignment with those keywords. Because, I can tell you sometimes that's really saved me from kind of veering off the wrong path and trying to be too cool or whatever. But, I think it's really important to evaluate and follow those keywords. And I can tell you that, once you have your voice down, it really makes copywriting much easier because you can have that conversational tone. And I think that once you have the voice down, it's really more of kind of moving into the whole mindset behind copywriting. So that's really what I want to talk about next. And it's almost this attitude about copywriting for the web. And earlier I talked about how I always put myself in my reader's, mind before I write anything so that I can use my intuition and experience to draw that person in. And Casey, I know you know about this, but what are some general beliefs or the mindset that you think people should develop to be the best copywriter that they can be?
The one thing you really want to do is to give your writing a lot of depth. And like Amber said, you want to be thinking about your clients. What are their pain points? What are their needs? What do you do, that can really help them on a human level? You always want to think of emotional marketing and connecting with people on an emotional level and giving them as much as you can give them. And when you're writing, you want to be very believable. Always check your copy for cliches or things that are just general statements. You want to be detailed. You want to be sincere, honest, and if you're writing, let's say, about things they can do to generate more wealth, and at one time in your life you were poor, tell the story of how you were once poor and now you've helped yourself or something like that. So be real, be genuine, and always think of touching people on an emotional level and being sincere with them.
And I'm sure there has to be at least one person on the call who might be a little more nervous to write in an emotional way. I mean, so does that really work? Do you have any examples that you can think of? I know you just talked about the one about wealth, but anything else that can, try to help people understand that by writing from an emotional place, it really creates that deeper connection with the person reading it, right?
Yeah, and I'll give you a very basic example. I've written in the past about anti-aging skincare products. You can write a line like, Johnson's anti-aging skincare products will help soothe away lines and wrinkles. But you can just add a little bit to a line like that and say, Johnson's anti-age skincare lotion smooths away lines and wrinkles so that you can feel more youthful and vibrant. You can just do little touches so that it benefits people on a deeper level than just lines and wrinkles, but you get into how it's going to make them feel about themselves.
Do you have any tips on how to tap into how the reader feels? I mean, because I use my intuition, but I know that not everybody, they either don't know how to tap into that or whatever. I mean, a lot of times what we're selling is stuff that we've done based on our own experience, so maybe it's a matter of tapping into your own experience. But do you agree with that? Do you have any other tips on how to tap into that emotion?
Well, I think one way, especially these days with social media, is to, whatever your crowd is, it's easier than ever to interact with them. So, invite them to comment on your blog or your Facebook page and get a feel for, what your crowd is thinking and what makes them tick. Always make that an ongoing thing that you're doing is to in short, the days of having a one-way monologue toward prospects are over, and everything now has to be, a two-way dialogue. So really work on that to stay in touch with people.
That's such a great idea, and that also reminded me that you can very easily send a survey out to prospects, or send it out to your friends on LinkedIn or your existing audience or friends and family or a Craigslist poll, wherever, and ask people what their problems are or issues are concerning X topic. Then really pay attention to the keywords that they're using in their response, because those are the exact words that you can, infuse in your content to really grab them even more. So that was a great suggestion, Casey. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our voice, right? And now we have this mindset that, okay, we really need to, appeal to the emotion. We need to get inside of our readers' minds. If you can just do those two things, you are well on your way to becoming a far better copywriter, I can tell you that. But I also, the whole main focus of the call is to share this sequence for writing content, because there is kind of this specific order in which you want to write your content to take people through a natural flow, if you will, just like in a normal conversation. If you're doing a breakup, you don't just say, I want to break up with you. You kind of go through your reasoning and you build the value or whatever to soften the blow. So how I really learned this is back in, 2006. There was this famous marketer, Jim Edwards, who was teaching this 15-point sales letter formula. And many others have had variations, so I can't even tell you he was the one that created it. Maybe he did, I don't know. But it was 15 points, and this was to write those really long sales letters. And, back then when the Internet first started, people were making millions off of those sales pages and this formula. And so people still use it today, including myself. And since the really long sales letters are kind of a turnoff to a lot of people, what a lot of people have done, what I have done, is I distilled the formula into a 7-point sequence, if you will. And I was really excited when I first heard that Casey followed a similar formula, because then I knew our clients would get the best value out of both of us. So in that worksheet that I sent you, you have the formula written down. And I don't use this 100% of the time, because I might adjust it slightly if I'm sending an e-zine or if I'm doing a social media post or whatever. But I've memorized this, and I always follow the sequence. I always have it in my mind to help improve my flow. And so I'm just going to run through the 7 points really quick, but then we're going to come back and spend some time on each individual one, teaching you some specific points about how to make each one really rock. And so if a product page where you're selling a product, you really want to have a solid headline at the very top, and this is what's going to engage your reader and pull them in. It's going to get them interested. Your headline has to rock. Once the reader has been pulled in, then you kind of get into the body of the content, where you really want to get into the mind of your reader, and that's everything that we just talked about. So you're really asking them questions about how they're feeling, which is going to solidify that you know how they're feeling. Then that kind of flows right into the third point of the sequence, which is to build credibility. This is where you're presenting the solution, which is yourself or your product, and you're answering any top objections that might come up. They're fear-based. We'll talk more about some examples to get to that point. But it's kind of this flow. So you pull them in, and into the mind of your reader, you present yourself as the solution, answering top objections along the way. Now they're really engaged with you. But we still have to keep going, because you've got to build a value for whatever you're selling, right? One of the easiest ways that I like to do it is to a bullet list of all of the benefits that they're going to get if they buy this product or hire you for this service. You've really got to build a value up to the moon and prove why you are, the expert, or why you are the solution, which is the next point, proof of the solution. Now, what I like to do is ground up any testimonial that I can, because people love looking at social proof, right? It's not me saying how great I am. It's other people saying that I'm great. So now that kind of just adds something really special to the sales process. Once you've done that, you finish up by justifying the value. So you're announcing the price for it. You're reminding people of the value in it, and then you ask them for the order. But this is the general sequence, and you won't even believe how much this is going to help you. You might be looking at this thinking, this is what all the hype on the call was about. This is pretty basic. But honestly, are you following this sequence? I bet you're not, because most people I see out there, they're not even following the sequence, and it ends up being this jumbled flow, and you lose the reader very quickly. So I want to go back up to the very top, and we're going to go through each of these points in greater detail. So let's start off with the headline. Casey, you are all about headlines.
Yes.
That's what I think about you the most is for headlines. So tell me what you know about headlines and how to really help these people get the concept down.
The most valuable real estate in sales writing is your headline. You never want to waste headlines because it's the first thing people look at. And with your headlines, you want to stay away from just making general statements. You want to make benefit-driven statements, or you want to ask thought-provoking questions. The two goals of a headline are to engage readers and drive them into your body copy. So you don't need, a lot of people with headlines, they try to be zippy and witty and clever, and you don't need to do that. Just state a promise of some kind in your headline. Make them start with, action words. Promise a benefit of some kind, like, create greater opportunity in your life. That's just a basic line, but what it implies is that the people will be able to look into the body copy to find out how to create greater opportunity in their life. If you get stuck trying to think of a good headline, think of headlines like, 5 ways to get more energy during the day, or 3 secrets to generating more leads for your business. But those are very simple types of headlines that imply a promise, and people will go into the body copy to try to find the payoff to that little promise. So headlines are extremely important. Always think of what kind of benefit statement can I make in my headline, and stay away from trying to be zippy, witty, and clever.
Now, can you ask a question as a headline, or should it be more of a statement? And is there a difference or a preference that you think that we should do?
You can definitely use questions. Thought-provoking questions make excellent headlines, and you can still imply benefits. For example, would you like to generate twice as many leads in half the time? It's a question.
Yes.
No, you can also phrase that, how to generate twice as many leads in half the time. But thought-provoking questions are excellent headlines. The big key with a thought-provoking headline is if you ask a question in the headline, you need to have a good answer in the body copy. There has to be a good payoff. So think of the headline as your setup and the body copy as a payoff. So anytime you ask a question, like if you say, would you like to generate twice as many leads in half the time, you'd better tell them how to do that. So you have to have your answer has to be as good as your question.
That's a really good point. Now, let's talk about longer sales pages that might have multiple subheadlines going through. Do those work the same way? I mean, I know that I was taught absolutely you need to have subheadlines throughout your whole content area because it breaks up the content, which is great for writing online. Because people scan, right? I mean, I'm sure all of you on the phone, you don't read long sales pages unless you're really into it, but I just look at the subheadings. So do those work the same way as the top headline?
Yes. In fact, what you want to do is, like you said, assume people are going to skim the page. So you want to have your headlines and subheads written in a way so that if all people do is read the headlines and subheads as they work their way down the page, they're going to get a nice, tight, concise selling message of some kind. So it's kind of a subliminal thing. If all people do is read the headlines and subheads, they're going to get a very strong message from you. And then, of course, the last headline is typically a call to action. So always look at your headlines as you go through in a sequence and say, if all anybody does is read these headlines and subheads, are they getting a good selling message from me?
That is awesome advice. That's really, really key, people. And here we have our, starting over. If we have our 7-point sequence here, essentially you can have your main headline and then 6 subheadlines, so you can have a headline for each of these sections. Sometimes you might have more or less if you want to put extra subheadings into your body or the credibility area, but that's excellent. Okay, so we have our headlines here. Now we go into the body, right, which is where we're getting into the minds of our reader. Tell me more about how you typically really make that part rock.
Well, the first great rule of thumb is when you start your body copy, start by writing about your prospects. It's just kind of a natural tendency to start talking about yourself and what you can do. Talk about them first. Talk about the problems they face or what keeps them up at night. Talk about a particular pain point they may have. That shows that, number one, it shows empathy. You're talking about them first. If you're able to identify some of the problems they have, it shows you've done your research, you can relate to them, you know what keeps them up at night. And once you're able to do that, that gives you a little credibility to then present yourself as a solution. And you want to do this in a very tight and concise way using simple words and short sentences as much as you can. But the sequence is talk about them first whenever possible.
I've seen, bodies that are a couple sentences, and I've seen that first chunk that's more like several paragraphs. Is there a length that they should be aiming for?
Usually, like on a typical web page, you just want a few. You want to work hard enough to where you communicate your point in just a few lines, and you always want to have. We talked about paragraph length on a web page, sales letters, e-blasts. You want to have paragraphs that are no longer than 2 or 3 lines. Even if you're continuing the same thought, you want to break off and have a new paragraph. That just creates white space. It makes your copy more at-a-glance friendly. So that's a nice little technique you want to use. Talk about your client first and their problems. That gives you the credibility to then position yourself as a solution.
And is it better in this body area to ask questions to pull people in or make statements, or does it matter?
You can ask questions or make some sort of benefit statements. But another thing with questions is sometimes, like you might say something and then ask people if, do you normally feel this way? You don't want to be presumptive and start telling them how they feel. So you can use questions. There's different ways to do it, but questions are always effective. But again, you have to have good questions, and then you want to follow those questions with good answers.
That really makes a lot of sense. And I'm just asking these questions because I think when people are new to copywriting, they overthink it, and they think, it's got to be a certain amount of words or lines or lengths, or should I do questions or statements, And I guess the point here is that there really is flexibility here in your writing. But as long as you are using your voice, you have the right mindset, and you're following the sequence, there really is some flexibility there on what you're writing about. Is that correct?
That's very correct. There's always been an ongoing debate of short copy versus long copy. And depending on the piece that you're writing, an e-blast that leads to a landing page, an e-blast is typically going to be shorter because you're not trying to generate a sale from an e-blast. You're trying to get them to go to a landing page. On a page where you want them to place an order, you can have more copy because you need to give everybody the information, all the information they need to make a buying decision. So typically if you're trying to generate a lead or trying to get somebody to jump to another page, that piece can be shorter because you're trying to tease them a little bit, lure them in, get them excited, whet their beak, as I like to say. But on that landing page where you want to sell your product, your information product, or your book, that can be a little longer because people need as much information as they can get to make the buying decision.
Perfect answer. Perfect. Okay, so now let's talk about, we have our headline, we've pulled them in, we've gotten into the minds of our readers, but now it's time to present ourselves as the solution. It's trying to answer those top objections and offer that credibility. So what advice do you have for the audience there?
Well, when you're presenting yourself, if you've set up, you've identified pain points for your prospects, now that you can start positioning yourself and your service or product as a solution. And a little tip there is try to not start all your sentences with the word we or I. Always check your work and say, am I repeating, every sentence starts with I, we, something like that. When you present yourself as the solution, don't use cliches. Look at what you're writing and tell people in detail how you can help them. It's kind of a drill down effect. Maybe the first sentence you write is a general statement of how you can help them, but drill down and get into more detail. Rewrite that sentence. Give them more detail about how you can actually help them, and it's stress to them. When you talk about the benefits of your product or service, make them human value. Really, tell people how you're going to make their life easier. Help them be more successful, help them feel more fulfilled inside, but get down to detail. And again, looping back to the example I gave with the skincare lotion, just don't say it gets rid of lines and wrinkles. Tell them it's going to make them feel more youthful and vibrant and give them more energy. Really tell people how you can help them on a real human level.
So, when I'm writing a really important sales letter, what I like to do is write out, open up Microsoft Word or whatever, and I put down my 7-point copywriting sequence, and then I think about what I'm going to write before I actually sit down to write it. So I think about what is the value, what's the long-term benefit, what are what is the pain my audience is feeling, and I just kind of jot down some notes. I'm not trying to make a perfect sentence. I'm not trying to perfect the flow or anything. I'm just writing down general things that I want to remember. Then now you have kind of an incomplete outline where you can then fill in the gaps and flesh out your content and then go back and read it again and make sure that it all makes sense. Would you say that's helpful?
Yeah, and another thing you can add to that is when you look at what you've written, be very, very honest with yourself and look at what you've written and ask yourself, is this the same thing everybody else is saying? And if it is, it means you've written something very general, and a lot of other people are writing general things. You can really set yourself apart by getting into more depth and detail. And that doesn't mean you have to write more. You can do it all in one paragraph, but just more detail.
And, there's got to be somebody on the call thinking, well, how do I add more detail? I mean, are there specific questions they can ask themselves or an exercise they can do to just maybe you look at it like an onion, you keep peeling back the layers of the onion until you get to the core?
Yeah, a simple exercise you can do is open up a Word document and just write one page on the value that you really provide people. How do you really help them? How do you make their day easier? How do you make their life more convenient or more satisfying? Whatever you write, say, can I make this more specific? Can I add a little more emotion? Can I make it more detailed? So you basically, like you said, it's like peeling back an onion. You just keep rewriting the sentences and you make them as detailed as you can be. And you can do that in 15, 20 words. Just stay away from cliches and general statements and really get specific about how you help people. And that helps a lot when you just think of, how am I really helping people? How am I helping people's lives? Asking yourself that question can really help you pour out some detailed, specific information.
And that helps you bring out the emotion, and it makes it specific to your voice, right? When we are doing something for others, it's like the ego gets out of the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's great. So we have our credibility where we're, presenting the solution, but then we next need to kind of build value, and there might be some overlap here. I mean, how do we make these separate sections, or how do they work together?
Well, if you're looking at like the next section, you want to have, typically a great thing to do in any piece you're writing, especially a web page, when you're explaining the benefits of what you do, is to have that list of bullet points. And your bullet points, when you're detailing kind of the value that you provide, have each bullet start with an action word. Drives, generates, inspires. Use words like that. I mean, Use action words. Keep your bullet points concise so that each bullet point is only on one line. You don't want it wrapping around 2 lines or so because then it's just too many. But you don't really ever want to have like 6 or 7 or 8 bullet points, maybe like 3 to 5 sharp, concise bullet points that start with action words. So that takes a little bit of work to have bullet points that all start with an action word. You don't want to have bullet points that start with how to, and then the next one is drives, and then this will help you. You want to have them start with tight, concise words like, drives, inspires, leads, stuff like that.
And what do you think about making certain text bold? I mean, what's the benefit to that?
Yes, it's not English class, so you can definitely, if you need to draw attention to certain words, in English class what they would say to you is, well, if you need to underline a word, you should choose a better word. Well, that's not true with sales writing. You can bold certain words, italicize certain words and phrases. If you really want to draw attention, all caps. Don't get out of hand with it so that it looks too hype and fluffy. But there's nothing wrong with using little devices like underlining and italicizing and bold to draw attention to certain keywords. You don't want to do it a lot. Again, for another reason is that if you do that with too many words, then it doesn't really have much of an effect because you're doing it too much.
Perfect. I had all these questions coming up as you were talking. You just answered all of them, so that's great.
Okay.
We're so in sync, Casey. So now it's time to get into the proof, because some of the people on the line are probably brand new and they're just starting up a website. They don't have any testimonials. Do you have any advice on how else we can, build up the value proof that this works?
Well, I always call these belief builders, and testimonials are great belief builders. Statistics, graphs, any kind of charts, or even quotations from industry-respected leaders can be used as belief builders. But always even from early on, be on the lookout for testimonials. If someone sends you an email complimenting you on what you've just done for them, reply back and say thank you, but also say, I really appreciate the compliment. Can I shape what you just said into a testimonial? And I say the word shape because you don't always have to just use the raw phrase that somebody gave you. You do have the option of perhaps maybe shaping it for them so that it stresses specific benefits about your business that you really want to tout to people. So there is nothing wrong with kind of reshaping testimonials and getting people to approve them. Testimonials, always be on the lookout for testimonials. Have a little file where you file them away and collect as many of them as you can.
Yeah, and I even think about that on social media, even LinkedIn, when you're getting endorsements or somebody says something great to you on Facebook or something. I mean, I am always on the lookout for testimonials, so that's great advice.
You have to have a radar for it.
Now comes the tough part, because asking for that order, presenting the price, and I know that some people really struggle with that because it's hard to justify, value, and it's hard to ask for the sales. So what advice do you have about all of that final area where you're really, at the home stretch?
Well, as far as justifying the value, there's different things that you can do. If you're offering a savings of some kind, you can always, what I call, sell the savings. Tell people how much they're going to save by ordering the product. Or if you can demonstrate its value, there's a lot of cool ways you can do that. Let's say you've done a DVD on how to generate more sales leads, okay, and you're charging $24.95 for the DVD. Well, you can say something along the lines of, this DVD contains hundreds of great tips on how to generate more leads at only $24.95. You're probably paying less than a dime for each tip that could probably change your business and drive revenue for years to come. That's called, that's just a great way of justifying value. So think of, how can I demonstrate? It's called a value demonstration was the word I was thinking of. But how can I demonstrate how the product potentially maybe pays for itself or the savings people are going to get?
And this is also a good place where you can put in any bonuses that you might be offering. Is that right? Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're giving away some bonuses, they have value to them as well. So if you're charging, X amount of, $97, but you're giving away bonuses that have value of, over $150, people are getting a tremendous value. So you always want to explain that value to them without, and if it's at all possible to show how their investment can potentially pay for itself, that's a great way to demonstrate value.
And I know that there's some confusion because you see those long sales letters and they say, oh, but wait, there's more, and it should be $10,000, $99, and there's that really kind of funny pitch that that's pretty famous out there online. And I know that some clients then are really nervous about that, and they say, does that really work? And yes, the answer is yes, it does in some industries. But I think there's also that nervousness that, hey, that's not who I am, so what do I do? How do I pitch? So do you have any tips on how to overcome, that whole area?
Yeah, that kind of loops back to your voice. You don't have to do, we all see those ads on TV. It chops, it hops, it slices, it dices it. But wait, there's more. That's if that's not you, you can justify the value or make special offers. But when you get to that part of your web page or your sales letter, stay within your voice. You don't have to sound like the guy on Channel 13, pitching the little Ginsu knives or something. Stay within your voice, and it's perfect. And if you're coming across as sincere and honest, value demonstrations work. I mean, the statistics show that they work. Having bonuses does work, but when you're making those offers and call to action lines, you don't have to suddenly turn into a hype and fluff machine. Stay within that sincere voice that you've created for your business, and that's how you can make it work for you.
Perfect, and that's essentially we talked about the call to action, but I know that you're big on the PS statements at the very, very end of pages, or emails. This is great for emails too. So tell us what you think about PS statements.
Well, and I'll speak to call to action real quick. When you make call to action,
sure.
Be very confident. That doesn't mean you have to be cocky, but don't say things like, if you're interested, call this number. Say, call this number. Always talk with confidence. And PS lines are great because studies show that people's eyes gravitate to PS lines. They always read them. I think that goes back to when we were little kids and we would write notes to our friends, and at the end it would say, P.S., don't tell Billy that Mary has a big crush on him. There was always something juicy in the P.S. line. So a P.S. line is a great way to, number one, reiterate your offer, or throw in another value add like, when you order by September 1st, 2013, you'll receive 20% off plus I'll send you my free new special report or ebook. So people always go to PS lines, so that's a great way to throw in, to reiterate your offer or throw in some, something special and extra for people. They'll always read that.
I'm going to touch on email marketing too for a minute. As absolutely, using that PS line and email marketing has been proven to work. And if you're inviting somebody to an event or selling a product, I like to put in a link to my sales page or event page or whatever, probably 2-3 times throughout that email. And as I talked about earlier, your email will naturally be shorter. The point is not to sell them just that email. The point is to get their attention, get them excited, then go to your website to read the full sales page about what you're offering there. So having that PS statement in your emails can be really effective because sometimes people will just jump to the very end of an email to see how long it is, but if that's where your PS statement is, there's a link back to your website to get the details, and that'll increase your conversion rates as well. And while we're on the topic, do you have any other comments or suggestions about subject line, length, anything like that?
Yeah, for email, subject lines are huge. Spend a lot of time on them. You really want to, again, a benefit-driven headline of some kind so that people, you make some sort of promise or imply a promise in the headline so that people are motivated to open the email. Don't make a general statement. Make a promise of some kind. You can do that with a thought-provoking question. You can do that with a subject line that says, 5 ways to do this, or 3 inside secrets to do that, or create more energy and momentum in your life. Something, where you're implying a benefit to where, okay, when I click this, I'm going to figure out how to do what they just promised me in the headline.
That's great, because I know there is some confusion around email marketing, and maybe we have a whole other call just about email marketing because it can be very effective. I mean, your email list is your number one online asset, right? Because you market to those people, you want to build a relationship with those people, and that is definitely a place where you want to have your voice shine through, your personality, and really be yourself and connect with these people who really, I mean, the way that I look at my email subscribers, I am so unbelievably grateful for each and every one of them. I never look at it like a number because these people are committed to me. They're putting their trust in me, and I really appreciate that. So in your emails, that gratitude can come out definitely to help, just remind your subscribers why, what they mean to you and so on. I'm going to get off on a tangent there with my gratitude.
No, but that's a very good point. With email, you want to be very personal. You want to personalize your emails and your email messages as much as you can. I'm going to give you an example. I'm looking at an email I just got, and the headline, the subject line says that the dog days of summer are upon us. Well, how is that going to make me open the email? It's not making a benefit statement of any kind. It's just making a general statement.
Thanks for sharing. Cool. Well, and this actually goes true for social media, and I want to touch on that really quick too, that when I'm writing my social media posts, I do tend to make them very personal. I want to share my voice, my beliefs, and I feel like that creates a stronger connection on social media. And another thing I want to add is that you're promoting something on social media. Don't be all about the promotion. Again, follow this, think about it before you write it, as you can actually be putting yourself in the mind of your reader on your social media posts. Let's say that you just wrote a blog post, and emotion behind that blog post, and I put that in my social media. So I don't just say, here's a link to my latest blog post. Nobody's going to read that. Why on earth would they read it? There's no compelling reason. So instead I might say something like, I was up at 3 a.m. this morning and my mind was spinning and I was thinking about these things that I was worried about, and do you feel the same way too? Question mark. Pulling somebody in. Well, I just wrote a blog post about, the 7 ways to reduce your worry or whatever. I'd love for you to read it and then let me know your top takeaway. So that's kind of, in essence, how you're pulling the reader in, you're getting into the mind, you're presenting the solution, which is your blog post, and then, you're giving them that call to action to go read it, and then even another call to action to give you a takeaway. So I just wanted to share that, when you're thinking about your social media, you can still pull in parts of this sequence, and you'll get better results that way too. And Casey, I want to ask you one last question. We talked about so much today, but what would you say are the most important aspects of persuasive writing that everyone should do every single time? Like if they leave the call and do nothing else, they should do this.
They should, number one, really, really focus on your headlines and subheads for all the reasons that I gave. The headlines and subheads are the most valuable real estate in sales writing. Never make general statements like about us, or something like that. Make benefit-driven statements or thought-provoking questions that imply a benefit, but really put a lot of work into your headlines. The number 2 thing you should be thinking about is human value benefits. Whenever you're conveying to people how they're going to benefit from your service or your product, always relate the benefits on as much as a human value level as you can, how it's going to make them feel better or help them make their life easier, their day go by quicker. Speak to them how the human value benefits of what you do. The third thing you want to think about is always tell people what to do next. We hear the term call to action quite a bit. So we always think of, well, that's when we're making a special offer of some kind. Even if you have a page or web page where you're not making an offer, tell people what to do next. Don't assume that they already know, but guide them to another web page. Encourage them to visit another web page. whatever you write, always at the or say, call me up if you have any questions, but always give them some sort of reminder, or actually not a reminder, but tell them directly what you want them to do next. That's my big 3.
And again, thank you. Everyone, I know that was a lot to go over, and we're nearing the end of the call here. We're not done yet, but Casey, I just want to thank you. That was such killer content. I'm so grateful to have you on our team to share this awesome information with our group. So thank you very, very much for all of that.
You are welcome.
So everyone stay in your chairs, because soon I'll be announcing that contest, and I know it's going to be something you will all want, so just hang on a few minutes longer. But before I share those details with you, I want to take a minute and talk about what to do from here. This call is only going to be good if you take action, right? No guts, no glory. So I am going to offer you some homework. Yes, just like in grade school, because it is important that you take action. And what I'd like you to do is make a point to go to your website while all of this information is fresh in your mind, and I want you to review your most important content pages, because it might take you a while to review all of them. So look at the real money makers, the ones that maybe it's your coaching services, your sales, or product pages. So what I want you to do is review your content through the eyes of your visitor, so someone who knows nothing about you or what you're offering. Ask yourself as you're reading it, do you feel the pain of the problem? Does the flow of the content make sense? Are your objections being handled as you're reading? And do you see the value in that product or service? And are you confident that it would work for you just by reading the content? So really take what we taught you and evaluate where your content is weak, and then make notes so that you can go back and strengthen it up. And this is going to be a little bit of a challenge for sure, because it's really hard to see yourself through the eyes of someone who doesn't know you, right? But your content needs to be great in order to generate leads and get you sales, and your content has to make sense. Like Casey said, your headlines have to be masterful. Your benefits and value have to jump off the page at somebody. And I know some of you are going to put in the time and really do this right, and I can't wait to see the results. In fact, if anybody wants to update their content and send it to me for review, I'd love to see it. For others of you, you may need a hand. Someone to come in and be that objective party to tell you specifically what you need to come up with a great plan to get you the support that you need. When Casey first started, a few of our clients who were actually confident in their writing asked me if Casey could just review their website and tell them what to fix instead of having Casey just write their content. So Casey and I came up with this copy review package where he basically goes into your website and he's going to spend about an hour or two reviewing each page of your website very carefully. He studies your headlines, your sales sequence, the way you prove your value, how you ask for the sale. Every detail of your page. He even looks at your opt-in box and your tagline to see if that content is off. I'm talking like a whole full review. And then when he's done with that, he sits down and he writes this really valuable document just for you, which calls out all of your areas for improvement, suggests, has other suggestions on alternative wording that you can use for your headlines. Literally even trains you on how to become a better copywriter just through his review. And when I saw the very first one that Casey did for our clients, I think I was just in shock for a second because of how detailed it was, and I could really see the care that he took and how good his advice was for the client, and the client was really blown away too. In fact, she was so excited that she hired Casey to rewrite her whole website content, actually, and others have followed suit with that. So anyway, for this call, I asked Casey if he would be willing to open up that opportunity to you so you could get targeted advice on exactly improve your content so you're getting far better conversion rates. And he got really excited about the idea, actually, and even sweetened the pot for us. So his corporate clients, because Casey does this for corporations as well, they pay him $600 for a review of their website with a 2-page recommendation document. They don't even blink at the price because the value is obviously so much greater. They know that they're going to be getting the tips that they need to improve their content, but that this is also going to teach them not to make the same mistakes again in their content. And they're getting higher conversion rates, which means more sales. I mean, it's obviously pretty awesome. So since our community, though, is made up of authors and speakers and coaches and not giant corporations, Casey and I agreed to offer the same value and package to you for just $347. So for those of you chomping at the bit, you can go right now to copywithcasey.com. Copy, C-O-P-Y, with Casey, and that's C-A-S-E-Y, copywithcasey.com to get the details about this copy review package and even to register. I will tell you that clients are accommodated first come, first serve. So, you might want to consider this because I'm sure that there might even be a little bit of a wait list. And then, so add to that, I'm talking to Casey about this. We're all excited. And then he says that he wants to add a bonus for people. And he ended up creating this 12-page copywriting guide that we're going to give to each person who signs up. This is a value-added bonus. And this guide is bananas because I was reading it before the call. It gives you specific examples of copy mistakes and how he suggests you to improve them. I mean, literally sentences. It's really cool, very detailed. And this guide will help you write any of your content in the future, whether it's a sales page or your newsletter or ebooks, blog posts. I mean, all of it. It all applies just like we were talking about earlier. And it's not even something we're selling. It's just a free gift to those of you who want to jump in with both feet and have Casey review your website content. And last night, I'm kidding you not, I was laying in bed, and I thought that was so cool that he put in this extra bonus that it got me motivated to offer something too. So I decided that for the first 5 people who register for this copy review package, I'm going to personally review your Facebook account and give you a step-by-step video analysis of what you need to focus on to improve your results in social media, because it will apply across all of the platforms. And you're probably seeing now that Casey and I really want to offer big value to you on today's call. I mean, we're so passionate about helping you get results online, and you should hear how we're even talking behind the scenes about how much we love our clients and the work that we do. So this is all very much how we really feel. So I'm going to invite you to either make sure you do your homework this week and review your own content and start making those changes, or let us speed up things for you and tell you exactly what to change on your website and how. And just as an aside, because I've thought of it, if you are beyond needing a review and just want Casey to write your content, whether it's an ebook or a newsletter or whatever it is, video script, then you can contact me direct at amber@insightfuldevelopment.com and just tell me more about your project and how we can help, and I'll get you a quote for that as well. And last but certainly not least, I apologize for going 2 minutes over the call. I really too bad. I really try to be right on time, but I can finally share that content announcement with you. So here it is. Casey and I are, or at least I know for sure I am, I'm dying to hear your feedback from today's call. So for any of you who go to Facebook between now and tomorrow, Friday, at 5 p.m. Eastern, and share your top takeaway, you'll be entered into this drawing where one person is going to win 1 free hour with Casey. And you can have a call with him for that hour and ask him to train you on how to fine-tune your voice or teach you how to ask for the sale in your sales pages. You could have him write your sales page. You could have him do anything that you want for that 1 full hour, and it's a tremendous value because Casey can accomplish a lot in an hour. Just remember, if you want to participate in this contest, to tag me. Just write my name in the post or write NG Enterprises so that I see it, right? I'll be on the lookout for it. And I'll make a little tally, but just write your top takeaway, and tomorrow at 5 Eastern, I'm going to select the winner and send you all an email with the announcement, and I cannot wait to hear your feedback. And that officially concludes our call. I'll send out an email shortly. Go to copywithcasey.com and learn about how Casey can improve your website content. Love working with them. It's going to be a tremendous value for the future of your business. I want to thank you all so much for your time and attention and commitment to us, and I wish you all a really great afternoon. you again so much for your time today.